The dark truth about Pablo Escobar's Medellin, what tourists never see. There is a cocktail shaker in a souvenir shop in Medellin. On it, a smiling face, charming, almost handsome, the kind of face you might see on a motivational poster. It is the face of a man who bombed a commercial aircraft and killed 107 people, who had judges assassinated in their own courtrooms, who ordered so many murders that the city he lived in once recorded 6,000 killings in a single year. That cocktail shaker sells out regularly. Tourists buy it, take it home, put it on a shelf, and that right there is the dark truth about Pablo Escobar's Medellin that nobody talks about when they're selling you the tour. Here's what actually happened. Narcos dropped on Netflix in 2015. Slick, well made. Wagner Moura playing Escobar as complicated and magnetic and almost sympathetic. People watched it and felt something unexpected. Not just fascination with the story, fascination with the man, and within months tour vans in Medellin were full. Tourists arriving specifically to walk the geography of his power, his grave, the rooftop where he was shot, his brother Roberto's house converted into an informal museum where, for an entry fee, visitors are photographed next to bullet-marked memorabilia and cartel-era weapons. Videos labeled Pablo Escobar Tour on TikTok accumulate millions of views. The tone across almost all of them detached, ironic, sometimes openly celebratory. Not one of those videos shows you what is happening 5 minutes away from the grave, while tourists are taking selfies at it. That is what tourists never see, and that gap between what people come to find and what actually exists is the whole story. Here is what Colombian locals actually think. Ask almost any guide in Medellin off camera, any resident who grew up during the cartel years, any family whose neighborhood was in the crossfire. They will say the same thing in slightly different words. They already had enough of that. In Comuna Tris, once the most dangerous neighborhood in the city, now covered in extraordinary street art and transformed by community projects that took decades of real human effort, residents are now watching tourists arrive specifically for Escobar-themed merchandise. John Martinez, spokesperson for a local cultural group, put it plainly, the souvenirs and tours risk reducing this community's entire identity to a sensationalized narrative. A local photographer from the same community said we are so much more than a face on a keyring. That face. That smiling face on the cocktail shaker. It is the face of someone who made their childhood a war zone. And it is currently sitting in a tourist's suitcase somewhere on a flight back to Europe. In 2019, Medellin did something that almost no city has ever done. They demolished the Narco building. 8 stories, the penthouse where Escobar's family lived, one of the most visited stops on every narco tour in the city. Gone. They replaced it with a memorial park, engraved names of victims. A quiet, deliberate space designed not to celebrate what happened but to mourn it, and online tourists were furious. Comments flooded in mourning the demolition. People who had never been to Medellin, who had never lost anyone to the cartel, upset that a landmark of glorification had been replaced with a wall of names. That reaction tells you everything about the gap between what narco tourism sells and what it actually costs. The city chose the victims. The tourists chose the building. And right now in 2026, Colombia is debating whether to ban Escobar-themed merchandise entirely, whether cocktail shakers and keyrings and t-shirts with that smiling face should be allowed to exist at all. Most Colombians already know the answer. The debate is about whether anyone is actually listening. One more thing. Escobar kept hippos, 4 of them, imported for his private zoo at his Hacienda Naples estate. When the cartel collapsed, the hippos stayed. Nobody knew what to do with them, and over 30 years they multiplied. There are now over 160 hippos living in Colombian waterways, an invasive species in an ecosystem that never evolved alongside them, damaging river systems, threatening native wildlife, creating genuine danger for communities near the water. Scientists and officials have been warning about this for years. It is one of the most bizarre and genuinely serious ecological crises in South America right now. And it exists entirely because one man wanted exotic animals on his estate in the 1980s. The body count, the memorial park, the band building, the merchandise debate, and now 160 hippos loose in Colombian rivers. This is what Pablo Escobar actually left behind, not the mythology, not the Netflix show, not the cocktail shaker. I'm TK. This is the hidden root. If this video made you think differently about what we celebrate when we travel, that is exactly what it was supposed to do. Subscribe. Because the next city has a secret that goes even deeper.